through, defeating Arsenal 5-3 on penalties as they book a place in the fourth round. Where do you want to start here, Craig?
Well, we've had a little word on Man United, but I'm interested to see and hear what Arteta says after the game. You saw the expected goals there. I'm fed up hearing about expected goals and pressure, and that's not the story of the game if you watch the game, which is what he said against Newcastle. Lots of possession, but not a lot of clinical finishing in the final third. Guess what? We have the same story over and over and over again. It is so obvious for Arsenal. And yes, they're missing Saka. Yes, they're missing some key players, but they're still getting into those areas, but they're not punishing sides. And when you don't punish sides, you give them opportunity, hope, and a chance at the other end. And that's what happened here. You look at the stats in the Newcastle game, and then you go and look at the stats in this game, albeit United were down to 10 men. But you go and look at the stats, and they're probably going to be very similar. Possession, crosses, chances. But once again, Arsenal have come out in the wrong end. And when you don't have people up front that are good enough to take you to the next level, which I think is the case with Arsenal, Arsenal will remain to be bridesmaids and not the bride. I just believe that. I mean, penalty apart, this is a weekly occurrence here from Kai Havertz, right? And it's almost like I feel I'm talking about Kai Havertz every time Arsenal play and every time we're on the show. And it's not because I want to do it, but it's because he plays in such an important position and he misses so many big chances. Now, I don't care about this. Anybody can miss a penalty. And actually, it was a very, very, very good save from the Manchester United goalkeeper. But if you're going to challenge the Liverpools and the Cities for the Premier League, you need a player in the front line that is way more effective than this guy is. And I know there are people who, and obviously Arteta's one of them, he sort of can't see past them, it seems. And I know they don't really have many other options, but that's his choice. It's his choice. He's had transfer windows to address this. He hasn't done it. He's unlikely to do it in January unless they panic. Maybe he will with the Jesus injury, I don't know. But what we do know is Chelsea were willing to sell the player because he wasn't prolific and consistent enough. And let's not forget, Arsenal buy him as a midfielder. That didn't work. So it was another mistake from Arteta. Now he plays him up front and he works hard and he runs and he's a good guy and he's got a great attitude. But in terms of being good enough for Arsenal to go to the next level, whether it be the FA Cup, the Champions League, or tracking this Liverpool team down, if they don't get a goal scorer in that position, they're not winning the Premier League. End of story.
Is that fair?
I think at this point it's fair to say that. You know, I've watched them for the last 6 months, and you kind of feel that we're waiting for the Arsenal of the previous 2 seasons to come out in them, and you know it's there. You know it's there in them, but obviously, you know, for whatever reason, this season we haven't seen it so far. And so at that point, you know, you have to either go into the market and freshen things up. You know, we're missing big players at the moment. And listen, putting the ball in the back of the net is the hardest thing to do as a football player. It's very, very fine margins. And at the moment, those margins we're missing out on. And listen, it doesn't help that we go and play against Newcastle the week before, who have a striker that we're heavily linked with. It's January, the window's open, and then we come and play in the FA Cup against United. You know, they go down to 10 men, we have so many chances, we can't score. All of these things coming in the same week, it doesn't help Mikel. You know, it doesn't help Arteta at all. And it only highlights and sheds light on the fact that, you know, they need firepower.
I'm not having this discussion about any player if it's just 1 or 2 games. That would be ridiculous. But there's a pattern here, and there has been for a while. But he's not the only one. You know, Marino, ineffective.
Yeah.
Gabriel, you know, bit of a mistake for the Jesus goal, for the Fernandes goal. Tries to be too clever with the header on the halfway line, gets caught out. Declan Rice missing chances when he comes off the bench, an easy header should have. So there are many other factors, but that's the biggest one. I think the biggest one for me, because when everybody's fit, The back four will take care of itself. Young Lewis Skelly's a good player. Calafiore's a good player. Timber's a good player. Centre halves are strong. Keeper's been strong for the most part. Midfield can be strong when everybody's fit. It's up here. That's where there's a gaping problem.
I think that's where the frustration comes from, is because, you know, it took Mikel a while to really build a framework and get the club back to, you know, challenging for the title. And you're so close, you know, and it must have been agonising last year to have missed out on, you know, a point or two. And when you feel that close and you just miss out, and you realise that there's just a couple of pieces, you know, two maximum pieces to complete the puzzle, that's where the frustration comes from. And I think that's what we're seeing now, you know, where the pressure is going to mount.
But you have to be ruthless, don't you, as a manager? These guys have done well for me, but we have to make a decision here. Where's the money need to be spent? Yeah. I'm sorry, but you're going to be a squad player because we're going to go in the market for this guy who's prolific.
And how long's Jesus out for as well is another question after we saw him go down.
Yeah, but we just don't know what that injury is. I mean, it looks so innocuous. But so these are all the questions for Arteta. But on the other side of the coin, it's been a brilliant story because Bruno Fernandes was a player who was getting sent off in his discipline, and was he a leader for them? Well, you have to say, and this is only a small sample, because we know he's a good player. We know that. But his attitude and his performances in the Liverpool game and in this game, I think, dragged the team alongside him.
I'm going to interrupt you because I want to go to the Manchester United managers. We've got Ruben Amorim standing by.
Congratulations. What a roller coaster of emotions. You spoke about how you wanted your team to show that fight, that spirit, and that you expect them to know a little more now about what you want from them. Today, walk me through exactly what you thought of that performance and if it's exactly what you wanted to see from them.
I want so much better, especially with 11 players. We didn't have the ball in the first half. It was really tough, but we defend very well, and that is important. And like you said, I'm in these few weeks, I'm always talking about the character and the fighting for the team, and in these two games we show that. So sometimes we can play bad, technical, tactical, but the spirit is there. And when the spirit is there, we have time to improve during the game. And I felt that. Then we scored the goal, and that was the moment that I felt that we were control the ball a little bit more, sent off, and then we suffered together the penalty. But then after the penalty, I felt, I think also the Arsenal team felt that is our day. And I felt that since that moment, I want to say thank you also for our supporters. They are incredible. In this difficult moment, they are always there. So it was a good day, but I'm thinking about the next game. The players are tired. I'm just focused on the next game.
Well, as you said, you felt like at a moment that this would be your day. Definitely was Alte's day as well. What a big performance from him. Just talk to me about his performance, what you thought of it, and the rest of the players. Probably who else stood out to you that you're really, really pleased with today?
It's hard to say one player. We can talk about Altay because he had a difficult match in the other cup against Tottenham. And then to come here to make the exhibition that he did is really important, and also important to talk about Altay because sometimes the players are not playing so much, but one game can change your life and can change your moment and put you in a different level. And then Joshua Zirkzee, he scored the last penalty a few weeks ago. He had a difficult moment with our fans, and then you feel it that today every time he touched the ball the fans were there. So if we are humble and continue to work, the life is always round and round, and like I said, it was a good day. I'm really focused on the next game.
And finally, speaking of that next game, at least in the FA Cup, you're back at home against Leicester City, a familiar opponent as well. And you just spoke about how a day like today could help Altay. It will also help Joshua Zirkzee. Mentally, what can you take from this game, and how much does it help with the confidence going into the next one?
First of all, is to show the players that with the right spirit, we can win any game. And then we have to be consistent. If we are consistent against Liverpool, and then in the next game against Arsenal, you can win. Or maybe don't lose away, and then we have to take this against the next opponent. It's Southampton, and we have to think the same way. It's to play like against Liverpool and Arsenal, and I think we have to take this from this game, to take this for every game during our season.
Well, congratulations again and muito obrigada.
Leicester City in the next round. Chelsea away against Brighton. Meanwhile, trip to the southwest for Forest as they go to Exeter City. Also going to the southwest, Liverpool taking on Plymouth Argyle, of course, who currently sit bottom of the Championship. It's an all-Premier League affair. Aston Villa against Spurs. Leyton Orient or Derby will take on Manchester City. Let's welcome in, shall we? Nader Manua. Nader, my man, extra time. You love that more than anything. Looking at this, obviously Manchester United turning a corner a bit, but really I think the boys are... The big story today is Arsenal, isn't it?
To be honest, I think it's quite balanced. I think when you look at this Arsenal team here and the fact that they weren't able to break down this Manchester United side after having an extra player for 60 minutes, I think that's a concern. You look at some of the quality of the chances that they had and they weren't great. I think for some you'll probably mention, say, people like Saka being out, but as Craig was saying, you know, there are a lot of eyes on Kai Havertz, and I think the misses that he has, I think after this game's done now, you know, they're out of the competition which they would have believed that they could go on and win. In reality, I'm sure everyone's been in the situation that's played the game before. If you play for a team that has aspirations to win it, you can't just say, oh, it doesn't matter, next time, Kai. These are serious conversations, these are serious moments. These are game-changing moments for players who should be doing better. And as a consequence, today it's cost them. You know, obviously, I'm not talking about the penalty because, as Craig said, you know, people miss penalties. Me, myself, I'd be hiding if there was a chance to take a penalty. But he needs to take those chances. And there's so much disappointment that exists in the stands when the chances don't happen. And with that, now to talk about United, the more chances you see them miss, the higher your confidence is. And I've been very, very impressed. Their last two games, going away to Liverpool, going away to Arsenal, United essentially defensively have looked very good. But they've looked very good in terms of their individual talent, their collective in terms of the way that the team want to play, and the desire and the willingness to suffer and to look around and know that other people are suffering with you. Whatever's being asked of these players at this moment in time, they're willing to do it. Even though it's not necessarily something that they want to do, they understand the value to the team. And we've not necessarily seen their best form of football in attack, but to draw at Anfield and to come here and get this result whilst being down to 10 players, so much credit needs to go out to them. And I think even listening to Amorim there in his press conference, the way he's talking about the club, the fans are getting on side, the players getting on side, and he's starting to build what I believe is going to be a strong culture for the club going forward. And best of all, you know, they're in the hat for the next round of the FA Cup and they've got a home tie, so more power to them. I didn't necessarily see it coming when Dalot got sent off, but the fact is they dug in, they gave themselves a chance, they took the chance, and now they can celebrate as they travel back up to Manchester.
Nathan, what's changed in these last two matches compared to those 4 consecutive defeats after the City match?
That's a good question. I think for Amorim himself, he'll say that like training time on the pitch is a key issue, and maybe he has had more time to be able to do that, and as a consequence you can see more in terms of an identity. But I would still argue the case that their identity in terms of attack is not as great as it could be at this moment, but their identity in terms of how they wanted to defend is definitely there. The desire to get back into position, which, you know, realistically should always happen anyway, but you see it because now you see not just players but a manager that demands it. They get in there, they know their roles, they know their positions. They know that you have to throw yourself at the ball. They know that everything has to be done in a way whereby you're doing everything you can to make sure the ball doesn't go into your net. And also, you know, Alte having a good day in goal for them today. That's what you need. You know, at times, De Ligt is making clearances. You know, Martinez is making clearances. People doing well in 1v1s. There's a spell where Garnacho's wing back but penned in on a back five. But he's doing the best that he can against Martinelli. And that's the expectation. That's the standard. And I think those players have bought into that. Yes, you could make the case that maybe in these last 2 games they've been exceptional because they've been significant underdogs. But the fact is they still needed to do it. We've seen United for the last 2 years, maybe longer, let themselves down in the biggest moments on the biggest occasions. But in these last 2, when people have watched them, almost expected them to collapse, they've shown the exact opposite. They'll be disappointed to have not gotten the 3 points against Liverpool the other day, even though Liverpool obviously had chances. And for today, they'll be wondering, well, what happens if we can sort our attack out? What happened if we had 11 players for the entirety of the game? And now, considering they've just played the top 2 teams in English football, why would they be worried about anybody else in this division? And maybe they can finish the season off in a way that they probably think they should be.
I think they were so shambolic in those 2 or 3 games, particularly Bournemouth and Newcastle, to Nedum's point, that I think he's decided clearly that it's all about shape and it's about defending. And we worry about the other side of the game once we've figured out this side of the game. And certainly in the Liverpool and this Arsenal game, you have to say there's attack, but defensively in those 2 games, in terms of the shape, from midfield to wing backs to the 3 centre backs, it was night and